Are we live or no? We're not.
We're live.
Oh, we are. Okay, cool.
We're live, and it's snowing in Buffalo. You mother.
Nice.
It's cold,
May
Mike. It's
May 8th, and it's snowing. Mother Nature, you are
It's like 54 degrees here. It's cold.
Well, Mother Nature has proved that she's pissed. Let's just accept that right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's definitely. We're beyond that.
We'll talk about Mother Nature on next Tuesday. Oh, never mind.
I know. It's just crazy. Like I said, I was up all night, guys. I had a toilet explode. That was fun. That was always fun. Like it's
at least it wasn't with you on it.
No, it was the kind of thing that I got home. I was at this meeting. I got home and I immediately, like, my wife's like, "You got to run into the house. The toilet's doing weird things." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I run into the house. I can never leave the house. Like if I leave the house, something terrible happens all the time. I mean, I've been here constantly. So I jokingly say, I leave the house.
Was your one time out?
Yeah, one time out. I think the appliances in the house are afraid of me. Like I think that they stay in line when I'm here. So when I leave, though, they're just like they're gonna run rampant. So they take out. So it's like it was horrible. It was just one of those end of days type thing. And I'm just telling the kids and everybody and take the dogs upstairs. Everybody just stay upstairs. I got this, And I went to war with it, And it was, and then the sinks and it's the main line out to the the main line out to the curb exploded. So at any moment I will have a person come with a 200-foot snake and a big giant machine. The
Roto-Rooter man is on the way.
Yeah, I may have to get at some point. I may have to go and say hi to him.
That's fine. That's fine. I think we can carry it. All right, pre-show stuff. Russ, go ahead.
Right. So Mike and I were talking. I noticed that with Major League Baseball getting closer, it seems, to trying to open up, Yankees president Randy Levine came out with a startling statement, and he said that 70% of revenue is ticket gate. And I thought about that, and I'm like, really? That seems like very high for baseball. But Mike and I just did the quick math just off of their television deal and what the Yankees payroll is, and they probably break even. I know, I'm going to get her out. But they probably break even with employees and everything else, and they probably do need the tickets after all.
Yeah.
But by the way, my pit bull heard Russ's dog crying. He's now sitting right here crying for Russ's dog.
Now all we need is Buzz and Snowball.
My Shih Tzu is over there, and it always barks at me during this show for some reason, but has yet to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're talking about your toilet backing up and now Shih Tzu. It's sort of going back.
How they were saying something is a blank storm? I literally experienced that yesterday.
Are we telling Roto-Rooter stories? Because I have.
Please, because this was horrible. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I always tell this. It was a great life lesson. My first home that I owned in Port Huron, Michigan, and we paid $39,000 for said home. It was in 1981. And we were living there, I don't know, about a year, and we had the trees rooted into our septic. And the guy came, and you know what it is when you're young and you have no money and you've stretched to get into a house. And the guy said, well, it's going to be somewhere between $600 and $1,500. And you're sitting there with about $1,300 in the bank,
right?
All the money you have in the world, and you're just sitting there. And he shows up with one of those backhoes, and he breaks 4 or 5 people, and you're thinking you could just see the meter running.
Yeah,
and he's digging it all out, and then he walked up, and he said it was like $800, and I felt so relieved that I had money left. And then I shut the door and I said to my wife, I said, that's so smart how he played it.
Plumber, excuse me, I'll be right back.
Yeah, so smart how he played it. That he put the high end in there thinking, that would be the worst, when he probably knew when he started it was going to be an $800 job.
Yeah.
But instead of being mad that we paid so much money, we were just thrilled that he didn't take, the big chunk out of it. So
I've been there, and it's funny because there are certain things in the house that you can fix. That like, okay, if the air conditioning is broken, you can go with that for a while. But when your toilet's broken,
oh no, you can't. Yeah.
Like I literally got to the point last night because we haven't had toilets all day, necessarily that we could use. They told me they'd be here between 8 and 10 a.m. and it's now 1 p.m. That was him calling right there. He'll be here in the next half hour apparently. But anyway.
Yeah, you got that old outhouse in the back, so no problem.
I literally took a bucket. I had a bucket. I put it by the back door.
TMI.
I said to the kids, if you need to use anything, here's a bucket. There's the backyard. Enjoy yourself.
That's great. I do want to. I'm going to finish up with the baseball just by saying, so surprising to find out that they actually need the gate to pull a profit, and so now I can see where this fight lies, and there's definitely a fight. Basically, the owners are like, if there's no gate, we're paying you guys full price. They're going to act like they're losing everything. They're not losing everything, obviously, but they're going to be losing a lot of money, and the players simply don't care.
Right.
Like, that's really where they're at right now.
And Kev, this is where I think it really lies with baseball, because I heard, I can't remember if it was Scott Boras or someone else. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was an article in I think the New York Post earlier in the week that said that the players want as many games as they can get because they're being paid on a prorated basis in Major League Baseball. They get paid for how many games during the regular season, but like hockey, the players don't get played for the playoffs.
Yeah.
At some point, they don't. The major league players in baseball don't even really care about the playoffs because the owners are getting their money from the playoffs. And if they play 100 games and the playoffs are pushed into November, and then all of a sudden coronavirus comes back in November, they got their money. It's the owners who are out of it.
Yeah, I don't think once you get in the playoffs, I think nobody gives any thought to money.
Right.
Yeah, I just think that's I mean, you could talk about that beforehand, but once you start playing, like the players would be upset if they lost in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're competitive.
But Kev, the real thing here is while the players aren't getting paid, they're not losing money. They're losing anticipated revenue. The owners are actually losing real funds.
Yeah.
And in hockey, that will come back to bite the players because of escrow. But in baseball, there is no escrow system.
So it won't bite them because of the escrow. It'll bite them because they've got a 50-50 split on, of revenue. I try to explain this all the time, but every time people bring it up, people act as if escrow is on top of, like, it's money that they're stealing from you. But all it is what what the contract obligates you to pay. Right. But they never know quite what it's going to be, and it's no different than your mortgage when they take out escrow and all that. So it's not that the players are. I mean, they don't like escrow because of the psychology of it all. They're holding money, but
it's a balancing mechanism, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not like I've had readers say to me, "Well, then they take that extra money out for escrow." Well, no, they don't. It's not extra money. It's just part of the the 50-50 split. They hold that money to make sure that everybody gets their fair share. But
just a quick thing, and then we'll get started. For people who are starving for sporting content, the NFL draft was a really good thing. I mean, it happened when it was supposed to happen, and it was entertaining.
Yeah.
And anybody who was looking for entertainment out of the scheduling show that ESPN did yesterday, I watched it for 5 minutes, bored out of my mind.
There's nothing better than watching someone work on their own logistics. Like that's what you need more than anything else.
Hey, we're promoting our Monday night games. It's like here, and then they're doing it in drips and drabs. It's not like
3-hour show.
It's all the excitement of you and your wife trying to figure out who's taking who to what soccer game. It's like it brings back all the just watching this. It's just, oh my gosh.
And I'm going to tell you, the worst function in sports radio is when then the hosts will tell you before the season starts what the record of the team will be based on the schedule. And it's never close because you don't take into account injuries. You don't take into account last-minute signings. None of it gets taken into account.
Rusty,
how many minutes, Mike, did you watch before you bailed?
10. I was hoping I would catch the Bills, and they were like in the NFC Central, and then I found out about the Bills schedule when it was on ESPN about 10 o'clock. I said, okay, I'll just keep my eye on Twitter and see. And I'm like, okay, you couldn't pay me enough to watch this. At least The Last Dance, at least the documentary is interesting.
I didn't even consider watching it. I'm a huge NFL fan, and I never even, I never said, should I watch that?
You're a better man than I.
I never considered it. I don't need to know a record of a team if my team stinks. That's the good thing about your team stinking. It doesn't matter who they play.
Russ, a Buffalo sports radio station, they do a thing every week starting from like now until the end of the regular season of predicting the Bills' schedule, predicting the Bills' record by going through their schedule. And they do it. I mean, it's like, okay.
You can do it every week. You could do it in 10 minutes.
Right. As soon as I hear them starting to do it, I turn it off because it's just.
All right. Well,
I can beat this. I can beat this. And I know we wanted to start the show, but I can beat this. The other night, I'm flipping through all the channels, and I told you guys a little bit about this at the end of yesterday's show. And I come up on ESPN's 2's television debut of a sport invented by a couple guys who were drunk in New Zealand called Stupid Robot Fighting.
Oh God!
So ESPN 2 played this for Stupid Robot Fighting. Is this? All right, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you on the screen. This is what Stupid Robot Fighting is. Basically, the essence of it is this. Okay, so you have two guys who have sticks tied to like pieces of trash that are comprising a robot so they're tied to their legs and their feet. They sit across from each other, nicely socially distanced, and then
YouTube's I am John Isman, your host and inventor.
Turn this down. You get to watch them actually fight each other. So you can see they're sitting here, and they will now start fighting each other with their feet and their hands. And they have the object of this game is to knock the other robot's head off. Okay. And
Rock'em Sock'em Robots with jump.
Wasn't that sort of the original when people got together when they built robots? It was kind of robot fighting? Well,
the whole robot fighting thing is fun, and the actual robots, these are like just pieces of trash tied together,
right? And
they punch each other, and you win in one of two ways. You either separate the head from the robot, or you separate all of its limbs off.
Yeah, it looks like they got a big crowd of like 25 people.
I know, there literally are 5 people watching
it. This so looks like you, Eklund.
Don't think for a second that Owen and I weren't immediately figuring out how to build a stupid robot thing in our backyard.
I was just going to say, I could see you and Owen just totally getting into it.
We immediately said, I have the wood to do this. So I
already have a collection of dumb puppets. Just do that.
We have not done puppets, but these are stupid robot puppets, and
they're much worse.
There's no question that we could build this in a second.
I'm glad that they named it Stupid Robot Fighting, because if they hadn't have said stupid, I would have said it.
It's one of those things where like stupid is a modifier. What is it actually describing? The robot fighting.
Okay, let's watch it.
Anyway,
let's do the hockey, because I want to have a poll here that will feed off of the NFL schedule.
So. Fantastic. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Friday, May 8th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and Old Man Winter, go away.
I'm Russ Cohen. I ate a bunch of garlic for lunch, but you wouldn't know it because you're at home and I'm at home.
I'm Kevin Allen, and I really have nothing to say.
Thank heavens. And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, even during epidemics and plagues, to bring you the comings and goings in the hockey world. And Kevin, you have something for us. So what are you going to start us off with?
Well, I just wanted to. I saw the revelations of the NFL schedules, and I make an annual trip with my son, my son-in-law, and a very close cousin, and we usually go see the Lions and the Bears in Chicago. But this year we were going to go to Green Bay, and the Lions-Green Bay game is the second week of the season, which means we won't have to freeze in order to see it, because it's usually in December. But here's the thing: we were on the text last night. And like, I just can't see me, even if they were going to play, getting in a stadium with 60,000 people sitting on benches in Green Bay. And I just said, it's just not going to happen. And I also said to, my cousin lives in Chicago, and I said, if you want the Lions Bears tickets in in Detroit on the opening week of the season for you and your bride, and he says, "No, I'm going to pass."
Yeah.
So here's my question to you: the four of us, let's start here, and then maybe you can put it out there. If any of us were picked to be the designated reporter for playoff games that are going to be played in the safety of the bubble, would you want to do it? Would you do it? I'll start out. I just don't think I would. I just don't think I'm comfortable enough with what's happening in the environment, and it doesn't feel like we've backed off enough in terms of what's happening in order to do it. So I'd say no. I wouldn't do it.
And that's something coming from you, because you have literally never missed. You've missed so many things in your life to watch hockey games, and
for sure. But I just don't. I just feel it's just too great a risk at this point to leave my little bubble right now.
I wouldn't do it. I'll tell you this flat out. Like, the last game the Flyers played was versus the Capitals before the whole thing closed down, and I didn't go to it. I didn't cover it because of this. I was already there at that point. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. This is pointless. And that was before the NBA even announced that it was closing shop. So
I would do it. I did the last two, Heck, and I definitely would do it. I would take every precaution, but I would do it because I do feel like it's normalcy then. The only thing I can come close to that is after 9/11, I took in a baseball game in Philly, which was the first of the actual baseball games, but it never gets talked about because of the one in New York. But there was one with the Phillies and the Braves, and I actually went and covered that preseason game with the Rangers. And, I remember my wife and I had a long discussion about it. At the end of the day, I said, no, you know what? I'm going to go. And that's when they first instituted, they started checking for metal and everything else. And everything changed as far as how they checked the media when they went in. And so I would expect everything to change, but I would still do it.
I don't want to be. Go ahead, Mike. You finish.
I would do it, but you have to factor in. I'm not married. I don't have kids. Right. So I'm risking myself, and I would take every precaution because I have pre-existing conditions. I'm a diabetic, but the thing is, it's my livelihood. So, and I think it's important. And I think it's important that reporters are there because I'm concerned with the post COVID-19 world when we come to in terms of reporters, because we already saw the weeks leading up to it, especially in Toronto, where they didn't allow people in the press box. They had them in the media room 6 feet away from the players, and whether we're going to get as much access back afterward.
Well, that is the question I have for Kevin here. There is like that putting the toothpaste back in the bottle concept here,
No, I'm very concerned about that as well. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to get too used to it. Even if first of all, I don't think they're going to have pool reporters in this. I just brought that out to, for the sake of the poll. But I think they are going to try to have some availability where, you're, kind of like Zoom, you'll be able to interview players on Zoom. But, that doesn't work for us. Feeding at the same trough, everybody gets.
Right. It doesn't work for us.
Yeah. So, and I'm worried about that. We're already starting to see, backsliding in the NHL in terms of the way the media is allowed to cover it. And, we had fought hard to, make sure we had every player available. And now it's become sort of part of the tradition. They bring one player out at a time and everybody crams around them. Not everywhere, but in too many places, that's the MO.
Well, it was brought up on local radio here, and they made a good point. And this is the point I think we all think. There's more pressure on a player to answer a question when there's media around than if it's over Zoom. That's one thing.
Correct.
And a lot of times you will ask them something they had not even thought about, and that's when you get the answer that you end up using for your story. Where on Zoom, everybody's going to be so really proper that you may get one question in, you probably won't get a follow-up, and everybody else is going to get it. And I think that is part of the problem. And also there is a thing where when players come right off the ice and you get to talk to them 10 minutes after, the blood's still pumping and you get a different answer.
Sure.
By the time you talk to a guy and let's say it's a half hour after the game or 20 minutes after the game, you've already lost that fire in them, whatever it might have been. Being really mad, really happy, that dissipates too.
Yeah, you notice that in the playoffs when you wait longer sometimes to get the key players. You get the same quickness for most of the players. But for to have the stars of the game, it's usually 30 minutes before you get them, and they're much more relaxed and as opposed to getting the spontaneous answers that you get from the other players.
Yeah, no, I really feel that's true too. That's an interesting question. I mean, I think we're gonna be in a spot where we're gonna have to. I mean, you missed a really good debate a couple days ago, Kevin, when we all talked about the 31, the concept that we had. I'm not going to get back into it. I won't, but it was where I took the side that you kind of started me off on.
He is doing it.
PK. So I'm just going to say the PK Subban thing of 31 teams and all that, and we really got into it as just like of a single elimination type tournament.
Oh, it would be unbelievable. There's no doubt about it. I don't advocate it, but. Yeah, my position on this. I mean, instead of just complaining, just be happy that we're going to have something. So if that's all that you could have, you should just be thankful for that.
That was my position too.
But it won't be all they can have. They'll be able to figure it out.
Well, you finished an article today up on Hockey Buzz about that. Yeah, like, do you think all teams deserve a chance to make the playoffs here?
Yeah, well, I do. I mean, you entered the season expecting 82 games, and it's not like the difference between bubble teams and teams that had, by virtue of points, a spot in the playoffs. And, as I spelled out today, all the teams on the bubble can make a case for why they should get their final kick at the can. I mean,
but how far are you extending the bubble, Kev? That's the problem.
No, it's not a problem. Yeah, I'm extending the bubble to the teams that have a legitimate chance. So I would say 4 points or less. But is it possible for other teams to get in? For sure. But, my point is that in terms of fairness, like, the Coyotes were in first place for 23 days in the Pacific Division. They have the number 4 defense in the league. Like, this is not a rinky-dink team. This is a team that had trouble scoring, but it also had both their goaltenders go down at various times. Well, the Minnesota Wild were 7-3 in their last 10, one of the better teams of the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Like, should we just say, well, no, you don't get to be in?
Well, that's why I think, and I think Pierre LeBrun mentioned this yesterday, and it's the saying that this is gaining momentum. And we know, one day something gains momentum, then the next day it's an afterthought. But the 24-team playoff format, and you know what? I think that solves all the problems, because it includes those teams that were on the bubble, and it includes extra games that can sort of placate the networks that carry the NHL, that they'll get playoff games in place of those regular season games, because a lot of those regular season games would be meaningless because you have teams like Ottawa or Detroit playing games when they don't want to play games.
Sure. So, but we see that at the end of every regular season anyway.
Sure,
we do really. I think, I think I'm. If I was to pick one, that's what I want. I think the 2016 thing makes the most sense.
24, but
24. I do think realistically that the single elimination tournament is the safest and most logical thing to do, and given the unknowns, because like I said in the argument, you can plan for like 3 weeks, which is how long that would take to do. It's different than planning for 3 months.
Yeah, but I know it may be safest, and if in a situation where if the virus comes back, that they may only have that option, but really it's not enough content for the networks to have single elimination games.
No, but like I said before, it's a nuclear option. And like Kevin said, it's a nuclear option. It's like you are going to get this or nothing. That's where you're at.
Right.
Yeah. No. Or that's like it isn't enough content, but it would be an incredible show.
Sure.
And it would be condensed. Everybody would watch them. It would be like, you can't even describe how much fun it would be.
I mean, I figured out quickly to do it too. And
it would just be phenomenal. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't use the word logical. I don't think it's the most logical way to do it. I would use it would be the most exciting way to do it. But that's not the Stanley Cup should be a test if of greater proportion than a single elimination.
Well, it's funny because my wife heard this argument going on. Her office is, like I said, on the other side of my house. But she heard me screaming at you guys during this. And that was pretty crazy. So she's like, what the heck was going on in there? And I said to him, well, this was the debate. And I brought it up. I said, I just think that, people are like being unrealistic. I think this thing's going to come back and it's going to hit us and we're going to get into this thing and we're going to have so many games, so many, weeks and all these players are going to be trying. I said, it's not going to work. I said, they need to do something quick and make it exciting and say that's what happened. And that was my argument.
But here, Eck,
let me just finish this thought. So she says, well, you wouldn't give out the Stanley Cup for that. This is my wife. My wife's like, I'm like,
yeah, I would. Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, well, you can call it a championship, but you can't hand out the Stanley Cup for a thing like that. And this is my wife who
she's right.
Hey, this is why I would hand it out. Now, will it have an asterisk if they had to do that? Of course it would. And but saying that, imagine you basically got to win 5 game 7s in order to win that Stanley championship. With all the pressure in the world on you, you lose, you're done. It would be a talked about tournament, and it'll be different than any other Stanley Cup. Yeah. But the people who won that are going to love that cup as much as the people who went for series, and the people in the fan bases would love that cup just as much as well. So I think that argument doesn't hold water.
I needed you a couple days ago. All right.
Yeah.
Here we go. So I put them. Go ahead.
So as an example, I was able to look up the Blackhawks, right?
Right.
So let's just toss the Blackhawks in the playoffs. But what was their odds when play stopped of them making the playoffs? Take a guess.
I don't know.
33%.
Okay.
33%. The odds were they weren't going to make it.
They had a chance. They had a
33% chance, Eck, with 10 games left. That's not much.
That's possible, though. I mean, it's been done.
Of course, it's possible, but it's unlikely. How many teams do that? Very few, ever.
It's possible.
Yeah, I didn't have Chicago in my list of bubble teams. But.
Right, and that's why I wanted to bring them up as an example.
It's possible I get a date with Sarah McLachlan. She's single now.
Yeah, there you go.
But let me.
They would play Dallas, by the way, in the big 31. They would play Dallas in the first round of this.
A little bit of not breaking news, but just a little bit of an update because we talked about the NHL draft in June last week, Kevin. The ball really hasn't moved on it. And I thought there was a lot of indications there was going to be some sort of vote or some sort of approval of it this week. And Pierre LeBrun just tweeted out, not clear at this point when exactly the NHL plans to decide or announce regarding the draft. From Bill Daly, one of many matters that are being analyzed and worked on. There is no urgency to reaching a decision on this, at least currently. To me, what this sounds like, Kev, is that the pushback has worked at least a little bit, because if not, they would have announced it already.
Yeah, no, it has. I mean, it's clear the GMs don't want to do this. There are too many aggravations to deal with. And, I thought Brian McClellan of the Capitals said on the podcast yesterday that on Scott Burnside's podcast that, one of the things that he likes about where the draft is now is sometimes you play in the playoffs and you identify, because of the importance of the games, really what your weaknesses are. And then you've got the draft to work on that, where you have everyone together and all that kind of thing. And these are people who think about these kind of things all the time, and it's bothersome to them. And as I've said all along, I just don't think the benefit outweighs the issues.
Well, I'll give the same example for this that I gave for the New York Rangers drafting Dylan McIlrath. They went into that draft saying, we need team toughness. And my answer right after the draft was, you're drafting for maybe 4 years down the road for toughness. How do you know you're not going to have toughness at that point?
Yeah, I don't think Brian.
The same thing. You're not going to get somebody that's going to immediately change your problem.
I don't think Brian was talking about the drafting of players. I think he was talking about the gathering. Right. That everybody gets together, where you make moves and you sort it all out. And I don't think he was thinking he was going to draft someone who was going to fill a hole for him in the following year.
And the question is, Kevin, because I saw that I think Elliot Friedman reported yesterday that the PA and the NHL have agreed on a 45 to 55 day gap between the end of whatever happens this season and the beginning of next season. So is 45 to 55 days enough for free agency, for signings, for trades?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's funny. That's more than I thought they were going to give them.
Okay.
So.
Just a couple other things, and then we can talk about the Sorokin tweet by Arthur Staple, Ilya Sorokin, the goalie, the Russian goaltender, who the Islanders have the rights to, still has not signed a contract. And Arthur Staple reported that he hasn't signed because he's waiting to find out whether they can, make that contract and have them burn off the first year. But there's been players already that have been signed that are in a sort of limbo. So there's got to be something more, Russ.
Well, I'll tell you what the more is. So let's just say, for argument's sake, Arthur's right. Why in the world would Sorokin sign now when there's no AHL and you're literally coming over here and you're going to have to be with the team whenever they come back and you're just practicing and then you're sitting in the stands? Why in the world would he sign on for that? He's not going to.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
I mean, Alexander Romanov, the Canadiens prospect, he signed a 3-year deal today, but it's not clear whether that first year is 1920 or 2021. They're waiting to find out. Now, if Sorokin was open to it, he could do the same thing. Perunovic did the same thing.
But again, there's more involved.
Yeah.
He wants the backup goaltending job. None of the Islanders beat Warners want to write that because they don't want to upset Lou. And Lou doesn't necessarily want to give it to him. When Lou decides he'll give it to him, that's probably when you'll see Sorokin sign. But on the other hand, with this situation, I'm really down on the Montreal Canadiens as far as rushing prospects. Because if they're really going to try and put Romanoff into a situation like this where he hasn't even played in weeks, as a kid with a resumption of a season, that's awful. It's awful planning. And it's awful for the prospect. I'm sure he's signed for next year anyhow, so it's probably moot. But just the fact that it sounds like they may use him if they could is crazy.
The NHL and the PA announced the cancellation of international games for 2020. Yeah. So I think one was in Finland, and I don't remember where the other. I think was one in the Czech Republic, Russ.
Was there anything more inevitable than this? I mean,
the Department of Transportation or somebody came out the other day and said most likely all 21 travel abroad for U.S. residents will be impossible.
Yeah.
Like pretty much, he said it's going to happen in a matter of days, he felt, to be announced. So it's like my basic thing was, and this is true, I have a passport that maybe I was going to renew. Probably not renewing it now because what's the point? I still have a card in case I could drive over the border for Canada. But if I wanted to go to England, we get to go.
Well, my son was supposed to go with my wife on a trip to the Galapagos Islands this summer, on a thing, and obviously that's not happening. It's
right.
Also, should we talk about the fact that Brandon's contract was terminated?
Brendan, that was the next one. Brendan Leipzig's contract. Yeah. I mean, this is the worst. I mean,
I just hate even talking about this friggin'
stuff. No. I mean, we don't have to go into.
You have to talk about it.
I wrote about it yesterday. Obviously, we have to talk about it, but it's like, and I know you guys talked about it yesterday.
I want to get Kevin's, input on this because we had a show yesterday and we discussed it, and basically, either his or one of his friends' Instagram accounts got hacked, right, and all this stuff got spilled out. And I was surprised, Kev, that the NHL PR had to make a statement on this. Now, I think that was more of a symptom of the fact that there's nothing else going on right now, and it got focused on. And while whether the playoffs were going on, I think this would have been a story, but it wouldn't have been as big of a splash.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, just because we don't have anything else going on, but I think it was big. I think
it's a big story.
Yeah, it is a big story, but it's bigger because there's nothing happening.
Right. Remember what happened with Kuznetsov's story? Remember was it last year even?
Last year.
Yeah.
Right, last year that happened. That was a story. It happened during the Stanley Cup Finals, but it was a story. And
all right, can we just bring up one thing? And I'm sure the NHL has told I'm sure the Players Association has trained their rookies and other people on this. At this point in time, why in the world would you put any sensitive information up on social media or in a messaging of social media type? Why in the world would you do it? They've been warned against it. It can count against you. Like you see people falling for this all over the place, and yet it happens. And it costs you in real life. It costs you your job. And in the NHL, it's going to cost his job and maybe even his future. And it's just, what is the point? I mean, if you really want to do this stuff, you're better off doing a group text, and at least then you probably could make a better case that, okay, something else happened. But when you're doing it on social media, the way that gets hacked and fished and looked into all the time, come on. I mean, it's just silly.
Well,
so your take is that if you're going to do it,
no, that's not my take.
Well, that's kind of what you said.
No. My take.
You said if you're going to do that, don't put it.
Matthew Barnaby got in trouble for that yesterday. My take is it's completely wrong. But the idea to think that you're safe on social media is stupid.
Right. And look what happened with Giannis Antetokounmpo. His Twitter feed got hacked, and at least that's what they said it did. And he made some derogatory comments about LeBron and some of his teammates, and it obviously wasn't him, or at least he's saying it wasn't him.
Yeah.
But that's and he's got millions of followers, so it wasn't like this little thing where somebody got tweeted screen captures from Brendan Leipzig's Instagram account. That was like 50 times bigger, but there wasn't anything like Leipzig said on his things. So I mean,
I don't even like you. There's just nothing that can be said about this. It's just ridiculous, and the reaction was warranted. I don't think we'll ever see him play in the NHL ever again, and rightfully so. I don't even know how you can debate this of what this is, to me, is like the death penalty when these kind of thing. So
now the one thing that we saw today, at least I wrote about it, the province of Ontario agreed to open up the practice facilities to the Toronto Raptors, to the Leafs, to the Ottawa Senators, everybody who's in the province of Ontario. Now, the Leafs and the Senators aren't doing it because the NHL hasn't moved to that next step, to phase 2. But the Raptors are basically going to go into their practice facility on Monday to start to work out. And it's going to be like individual workouts. The NBA's got this whole thing. But we're looking at, certain areas opening up. We've heard that there's been some pushback from the Players Association on the bubble or the 4 neutral sites. I mean, are they thinking that that we're going to have games where or teams are going to go to Buffalo or Toronto, or playoff series are going to go back and forth? I mean,
no.
Yeah, where do they think this is going? It's got to be.
Well, I haven't heard that. I mean, it's got to be at neutral sites because it's too hard to kind of control the environment otherwise.
Totally unrealistic to do it the other way.
Yeah, so I haven't heard that they would.
I mean, they brought it up. The players brought it up, but
obviously, some breaking news, and this involves the Leafs. The assistant coach, Paul McFarland, basically has been given his marching orders after the end of the 2019-20 season. He's taking a job with Kingston, so he's leaving.
Right. Well, the funny thing is, at Russ, he was previously a head coach in Kingston. And now he's going back to. It's sort of like it's not a lateral.
Why in the world would you leave a Leafs job to go and be a head coach for Kingston? Like, to me, that tells me that they're already. Hold on, I think they're already doing their evaluations because they've had a lot of time here, and I think they probably said to him, "Hey, you may not be here next year," and he probably saw the opening in Kingston, and I think that's probably what we're have happening here.
McFarland was brought in by Mike Babcock, and he was a specialist in terms of the power play with Florida. Florida had the second best power play until last year. He was brought in. Then we had Babcock let go, and Sheldon Keefe came in.
Did not do a great job with the Toronto Maple Leafs power play. We'll say that much.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. I think they had a lot of time to look.
I mean, that wasn't the Leafs' strong point.
Their power play got a lot better once they put Tyson Berry on the point, which is basically one of the best things that he does.
That was when the coach changed too.
That's when Sheldon Keefe, right? So I mean, but you don't know whether the Riley thing on the point of the power play and Berry not being was Babcock or was McFarland. That's the problem. But I think that you could
Babcock if Keith changed it.
You could see the former Dave Hackstall go as well, because Sheldon Keefe will probably want to bring his own assistants.
I think Dave Hackstall is going to go as well. We saw this happening in the NBA. They actually got rid of, during this downtime, they got rid of a GM. And I think this is like one of those things where I think the Leafs did a lot of analyzing because they have a lot of time in their hands, and they decided we got to go in a different direction next season, no matter what. And I think they've given him plenty of notice, and I think he was able to get his old job back, because otherwise, why in the world would you not want to try and get another job in the NHL? You just worked for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I've got an interesting topic, and maybe we can throw around a little bit, because I just thought it was fun. I was talking to a GM about free agency and about the fact that the market is going to be so up in the air that it's going to be difficult, and it's not going to be as easy for players to get what they want as probably that would have been had we not had this pandemic. And he brought up an interesting thing, that he thinks that this free agent marketplace, you're going to have to view it like you're making a trade, because everybody's cap situation is kind of screwed up. So in other words, and this is not the example he used, but I'll use it just because Mike's here, and it'll make it more easy for us to discuss it in terms of everyone will sort of get it. But if the Leafs wanted Pietrangelo, and which makes a lot of sense, top pairing defenseman to go there, but their cap situation does not allow that sort of thing to give him the money. But so the way they would view it is, we move Nylander. We move Nylander out. Now, as the GM said, that actually helps you in a couple of ways, because you're going to get, he said, you're going to want it. You'd make that, that's not what he said, but you would make the trade anyway, your guy for their guy. And I think the Leafs would make that trade. And you're going to be able to move Nylander, and you don't want to get people that's going to affect your camp. So you're going to move them for future prospects and draft picks and good young players. And so it could be interesting. And I thought, that's a really good way to look at all that teams, because, everybody can find way to maneuver to get the one guy they think they need. I bet there'd be a lineup of, a half dozen or more teams that would say, hey, I can fit Nylander into my, situation. I mean, what about like the Red Wings, who are desperate for scoring help? Would they move some young prospects or younger players to get, in there? So and
Nylander's contract is front loaded, so the real money being paid out is significantly less. And he's locked up for 4 more years at less than $7 million. He's coming off his highest goal total, 31 goals. I mean, there's a number of factors, and I've written about this, Kev, is that you could see that happening. Now, I don't know whether $7 million is enough, because they're right up against it to open up enough cap room. They may have to do what they did last year and trade for a dead money contract like a David Clarkson or they.
You know what's amazing about this though? The who really benefits from this scenario that you're painting, Kevin? Because what's interesting about the difference, obviously, with trades is if they're signing a free agent like Pietrangelo or something like that, they're if they're making a trade, they'd have to give money to St. Louis to take it, or that kind of situation. Where in this case, you're not having to they have to get rid of money, but they don't have to give it to St. Louis. So what ends up happening is some of the teams who have tons of cap space really might have a lot of options. Like they might have a ton of players they can take, or and they could really improve quickly. Like you could see teams with
New Jersey, Detroit,
Columbus.
Montreal.
Yeah, but the problem with that, and I've talked about it with folks who know what's going on in Detroit, and they say that doesn't work for Detroit because they're counting on using their cap space to move in. So unless it was a 1 season deal,
right.
But they don't want a 2 or 3 season.
Well, even if we're going to bring up a team like Florida, the way they ended the season, they didn't have a lot of fans. Maybe they would have done well in the playoffs, but you'll never know that. And if they don't get to have fans show up at the gate this year, there's no way they're spending to the cap.
Right. No, it's true. That's really going to.
And maybe even some teams that you thought were really going to spend to the cap may even try and save more if they get the opportunity, simply because of losing revenue.
But I do think we're going to see a lot of trades as a result of this. I do think we're going to have to. I mean,
I think there will be.
The reality is we're going to have to.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I have one quick thing I want to do. I think it's kind of fun. So I did over the weekend. I did a Sunday. I had a debate with somebody in the hockey world, and then whenever I get into that, I'm like, oh, this would be a good topic for for a blog. And I wrote a blog, and now I want to bounce off you guys. I think that right now in the NHL, we have more players playing that are going to be first-round ballot Hall of Famers than we've ever had in the NHL's history. And I think that, and I mean, it might be like a crazy thing to say, but I went through it and I'm like, okay, if I was to predict off each team who would be a first ballot guy, and some of these guys have obviously earned it already. Some I just think will earn it. So this is just, who do we have, and I went through, and I'll give you some of the guys I had, and you can tell me if you disagree with them. Okay. I'm going team by team here.
Yeah. Okay. That's great.
So for Anaheim, I was debating on this one, but I think Getzlaf maybe a first ballot Hall of Famer. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know. First ballot. Yeah.
I would just say Hall of Famer because first ballot means.
I want to go first ballot, Mike, because you can tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't think it's his first ballot.
Yeah, I think he's a Hall of Famer, but I don't think first ballot.
Couldn't find anybody on Arizona. For Boston, I had Patrice Bergeron and Chara.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Marchand. I think Pasternak. I mean,
first ballot Hall of Famers. I'm saying.
Well, it's too early. It's too early to know about Pasternak.
We're predicting.
Yeah.
We're predicting here, and it is too early. I'm like in Buffalo. I think Jack Eichel's got a serious shot at being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, if Pasternak is too early, then Eichel's too early. It's the same draft.
No, I just think
it's actually a year later.
No, but I think Eichel's going to be better than Pasternak. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think that when all is said and done, I think Eichel will be a better player than Pasternak. And you might not agree with me. I'm just saying.
I think you're both right. I think it's too early to really know, but I also can see Eichel. Yeah. My gut feeling says Eichel will be there.
Yeah.
No, I think Eichel will be there. I agree with Eichel.
Calgary. Tough to find anybody on this team necessarily. I think the closest I could come up with Monahan actually, but he's probably.
Oh no, Gaudreau would make it ahead of Monahan.
And Giordano started too late.
He started too late.
Yeah, okay.
Gaudreau will be the guy, but he won't be first ballot because there'll be people with a height bias and all other biases. Trust me.
He'll run into the Theo Fleury problem.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's interesting. So Calgary. So Carolina. This is Justin Williams the first ballot Hall of Famer?
No.
Okay, is he a Hall of Famer eventually?
Yes.
Okay,
he's definitely not Jake Gardner.
It'll take a while because they're going to have to prove his playoff and other worth more than his regular season, really. I mean, because that's what he's known for.
Okay, so we'll take him off the list. Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews for the Blackhawks.
Duncan Keith.
Duncan Keith's first ballot too, you think?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
three of them.
I think all three have the ability. It wouldn't shock me if they don't put Kane in first because of his other stuff. You never know about that.
Well, Kane might play longer.
No, but the other stuff may they say, we got to wet.
I feel like that's been forgotten about.
Huh?
Not here, Rack.
Not in Buffalo.
Oh no, he's from here, and one of the things happened here.
Right. The idea is when he gets to that, and everybody starts digging up. Well, why is he a Hall of Famer or not? They may let his heels cool a little bit. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, Dino Ciccarelli.
Right.
It took him years to get into the Hall of Fame, and
True.
What the baseball swing, the incident on Luke Richardson and him getting arrested. That
Patrick Kane's a bigger star than Dino Ciccarelli.
I grant that. Yeah,
we understand that, but still the same problem exists.
Yeah.
Kevin, Patrick Kane first ballot.
Yes.
Okay. Colorado. All I could come up with, I think, is Nathan McKinnon.
I'd say yes.
Yeah, I'd say yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, he hasn't earned it yet necessarily, but he's on.
Brandon's close, but he won't be.
Yeah. Columbus, I couldn't come up with anybody. Dallas, no one.
Oh, come on, Elvis. Jeez.
No. I mean, I do have a goalie like that later, but Dallas.
Wait. Audible here. How about Seth Jones?
Yeah, I think Seth Jones. I was just going to say that. I think there's a chance there, but I think we couldn't say that now.
Yeah, I can't say it yet.
Yeah,
but if you were
I think there's a chance. Yeah.
We're asking predictions here. You got to go on the limb.
Well, I'm not going out on the limb.
No, I wouldn't need it for.
You guys are a lot of fun.
I'm not going out on a limb because the limb.
Well, it's just too hard to know. Like that's.
I know, but we're reporters. You just got to do.
But it's not. That isn't even good speculation. Just
all right.
Let me get my turban so I look like Karnak.
Dallas. Dallas. I came up with none on Dallas. That would be first ballot Hall of Famers.
I wanted to tell you on Hockey Reference.
Yeah.
It does give Seth Jones a look-see at Chris Pronger, but then it also does like Dennis Weidman, and that's the
I like
I
I really do. I really didn't think of him, but I think he's I think he's the best player on Columbus, and I think
does Sagan, or I'm not saying first ballot, but does Sagan or Ben or Pavelski, are they eventual Hall of Famers?
I don't think so.
No, I think it's tough for all of them.
Yeah,
maybe Pavelski, eh?
Maybe Pavelski.
I mean, I'd have to do a deep dive on all three
He's
of them.
got great numbers. I don't know what the career points are, but
Detroit. No one's currently that I could think of. Who do you think could? I mean, I guess Larkin maybe, but
Larkin would be the only one at this point.
Yeah. For Edmonton, I put McDavid and Draisaitl as first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I think they both will be. For Florida, I put Bobrovsky.
You're forgetting Adam Larson. Come on.
For Florida, Bobrovsky's the first ballot.
No. But
he's got the Vezinas, and
it doesn't matter.
Does he have a world championship?
I think so.
I think he does, but Kev, how many goalies are even in the Hall of Fame? There was
I know, but he's not first ballot. But
no, there was a big gap even before Grant Fuhr got in.
I mean, granted, he had a horrible year this year, but if he turns it around and gets another Vezina in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still some potential there.
Well, that right now seems slim, but it could happen.
I think Barkov could be.
Could be.
Barkov could be.
LA, I've got Kopitar and Doughty.
Yes, and Quick.
And Quick.
It's
two Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythe.
I should have put Quick on here. Right.
Quick would have the better chance of any goalie of this era.
That's a good point.
Over Fleury?
No, I have Fleury on here.
Well, I think it will be close. I think both of them will get in. I think
Fleury's no nonsense a first ballot Hall of Fame.
Listen, I mean, again, goalies, but I do think those are the two. If you're going to tell me two, fine. I'll say those two.
Just a quick note. Pavelski has 700, almost 800 career points, 369 goals in 1,030 games. So he'd probably have to get 500.
No, I mean, Pierre LaRue has those numbers in fewer games.
Yeah. And he's 35 already. So you need to wait until he's 40. Okay.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Suter is the best player, I thought.
And Parise.
Suter, but not first ballot.
I think Suter over Parise, but maybe not first ballot, but maybe depending on what Minnesota does. If Minnesota comes along here and could
I don't think so. I mean, I agree with what Russ said. I think he's going to be in, but not first ballot.
Montreal, 2 of them, Price and Weber.
Yeah.
Right.
Slam dunks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nashville, I have 2 of them, and Yossi and Rene.
Rene's going to goalies. I don't think Rene. It would take a long time for Rene. He's not a guarantee of anything.
Yeah, I think that's true. They haven't won.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, does Yossi have to win some?
He might have to. I mean, there's goalies with 2 cups that can't get in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Yeah. All right, I'll give you that.
Barrasso and Osgood.
Rene is such like a obviously he's just such a legendary player for that franchise.
Yeah, he's great. I'm just saying.
I know he's great, but I'm just saying, and for New Jersey, I couldn't find any Devils currently.
PK Subban, come on.
No, not for Hall of Famer. No, definitely not. And I know you're joking about that anyway, Mike.
Yes.
The Islanders, I couldn't think of anybody right now either.
No. Because even Barzal had an off year this year, you can't guarantee that.
No, that guy is in Toronto.
For the Rangers, I have 2. I have Lundqvist, which I think is the first ballot.
Yeah, Lundqvist is a slam.
There's a lot of goalies, by the way, that are playing right now.
Depending on when they retire.
Yeah, that's true.
Lundqvist could get screwed for not having a cup. He could.
I also think Shesterkin will be a Hall of Famer, and I know that's ridiculous.
Oh, come on,
I'm throwing it out there.
Come on. Can we allow the guy to have a full NHL season before we can put him on Olympics?
No, I'm going to wildly speculate.
That's a Ouija board.
It's not a Ouija board.
Well, it is. Like, if you're going to do it, it's okay, but we haven't even seen enough of him to even speculate of like what kind of career he's going to have. Like, that's not even.
Now, if you said Panarin, like Richard Chat said,
like you can't do that. Act like it's, that is a Ouija board.
Dead on with goalies. I've always my whole life. When I see a goalie play, the first time I see him play, I can tell you whether he's going to be a star or not. And I'm telling you, Shesterkin's a.
Yeah,
you say you're trying to convince us that you can watch a goalie play
Yes.
his first season and know whether he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I say to that, and it's
based on
if that were true, you would be the head of scouting for all the teams in the NHL.
In college, saying Jim Carrey's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I mean, it's fair speculation to talk about Seth Jones, who's we've watched for a while,
right?
But a guy that we've hardly seen.
Yeah,
that's a Ouija board.
All right. Well, from now on, this is going to be your and I personal quest. Every year, I'm going to be like, "Do you think Shesterkin's a first ballot Hall of Famer yet?"
Everybody should live
and it'll be fair when we talk about it.
You better have this show on for another decade because it's
right.
All right. Moving on.
Ottawa. The long game here, Eric.
Ottawa. I'm going to say somebody you're also going to pick on, but I think Brady Tkachuk is going to do this.
Yeah, that's same category. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we just haven't. We've seen more of him, but I wouldn't want to.
He's the best Tkachuk by far.
He's got the DNA, but his dad's not in.
He's better than his dad.
I think his brother has a better.
He's better than his brother.
He is the real deal, Brady Tkachuk.
I think score more goals than his dad.
Right. I think his brother has a better case because he's put up more good years. He's been in the league longer.
Right, and he may not score as many goals as his dad.
No, I got ripped in Philly for this. The next one, I did not put Claude Giroux as a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No, I don't think he's a first ballot, but I think he would get it.
I think he can make the Hall of Fame, but I think that he still might have to do something to get it. But I think Provorov will be.
I can't say that yet. Come on, I nobody looked at him earlier than me and said he's a really good NHLer, and I'm telling you, stop.
We've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous here.
Yeah, I mean that's not as nuts as your goalie.
No, it's not as nuts at all. I mean,
but it's just too early.
Do you know the story of Provorov right now during this lockout?
Not much. I mean, you could say it.
It's a great story. I mean, he's like, so he has his billet family, right? That's in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, that he lived with when he came over here first from Russia before he was even drafted. Is a very wealthy family that has a mini rink, a mini ice rink on their premises. He's gone home and lived with them, and he's been skating 6 hours a day. Provorov, he's been out there constantly. So it's funny. I mean, talk about like an advantage coming back to like everything.
Yeah, he's a workout freak. We all know
that's where he chose to quarantine with that. Kids.
Well, I'll project him to be a first ballot workaholic.
All right, there you go.
All right, Pittsburgh, Crosby and Malkin. We okay with those?
Yep.
Maybe Letang.
Letang will make it. I don't know if he'll be
first ballot. He can make it.
First ballot.
How about Matt Murray?
Nope.
He's got to
do more.
Yeah, at least another decade of quality.
Got to win a couple more Stanley Cups, you're saying?
No.
There's guys with two. No, there's guys with 2 cups that aren't even in.
Sure.
He has to have a body of work, too.
Right.
Joe Thornton on San Jose.
Yes.
Yes, but not first ballot.
No, he's first ballot.
I don't know.
I think he is.
How about Patrick Marleau on Pittsburgh?
No.
Not first ballot.
Not first ballot.
He's going to get in, though. I mean,
he could get in eventually. First ballot.
I agree he'll get in, but again with Thornton, I mean, he didn't win.
I know, but they're going to put him in just because of his passing ability and
his Team Canada stuff too.
No, I think he's in.
His Canadianness will help him.
Intangibles, I think, with Joe. Yeah.
St. Louis, for now, Peter Angelo.
No.
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 Yeah.
You don't think so?
No, not for first ballot.
No. That's fine. I'm just throwing out my opinion. Tampa, I've got 4.
4.
Stamkos, Kucherov, Hedman, and
Vasilevsky.
Vasilevsky won't get in first round. Hedman won't get in first round.
Ooh.
Kucherov might. Stamkos
could win like 3 Norris trophies before his time's done.
He hasn't won a cup yet.
I know, but he
may not get in first ballot. I'm going to tell you the only one.
I think he will. I'm going to be with Eck on that. I think we've seen enough of him,
right,
to know how dominant he is. And
the only one that's a lock to me is Stamkos because even McGillney's not in, and maybe Kucherov's going to go up against the same kind of garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair argument as well, but I'm not bothered that Eklund wants to put Kucherov first ballot.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a player.
All right, Toronto, 2 players, Tavares and Matthews, Austin Matthews.
I think Marner. I think Marner could, but again, it's too early.
Marner could make the Hall of Fame, but I think Matthews has serious
I
first.
would only say Tavares right now. That's it.
Not Tavares yet? No.
Well,
Not Matthews yet.
We
No.
only have 3 and 3/4 years of Matthews.
My problem with Matthews is he's already starting to miss games. If he continues to miss games, that could hurt his chances.
Oh, the funniest thing about this, Mike.
Well,
Mike and I have had this long debate about because Mike put together the all-time Toronto Maple Leafs team for me in my video game.
Right.
And you saw now, of course, the TSN has taken over. And
that list was a load.
They stole my whatever.
But it was a load.
It's still my idea. What else are we going to talk about? I'm just joking. But anyway, so yeah, but they put because I said Matthews should be on the all-time team, and you said he shouldn't, and they put him on there.
Of course, Zach, because what they did was they put a classic player like a Teeter Kennedy as the foundation player, so they could keep Matthews on there instead of eliminating him because he hasn't done enough yet.
He scored more goals early in his career than any other Maple Leaf.
I know, but it's still 3.5 years or three.
Here's the problem, and I love Austin Matthews. Since his rookie year, he's played 62, 68, and 70 games. Now, his points per game is great as a result, but the problem is he could get robbed of like 3 full years or more at the end of his career because of that.
Well, the difference this year, Russ, is he didn't miss a game. He was they said it was 70 because the season ended.
That's true. No, you're right about that.
I think the exercise here is not to name the all-time greatest Maple Leafs team. I would not put Matthews on that team because he hasn't done enough. But the exercise here is projecting, according to Eklund, guys that we think first rounds. I think we have seen enough of Matthews to be able to say that he could be a first ballot Hall of Famer if he continues to play at this level. So I think for the exercise we're doing, it's fine to say that. I think your argument is valid, Russ, but I think we're allowed in this instance to project.
Okay.
We already projected him as aren't generational players first ballot Hall of Famers?
They often are, but not always. Yeah.
Not always.
Not always.
Yeah.
I mean, but I guess they're not generational players if they aren't. That's my point.
Well, but I guess the question is, are you calling them based on what their status was when they were drafted, or what after they performed? Because two different times when you can earn that distinction.
That's true.
Well, here's an example. Mark Howe was not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
Is Seth Jones better than Mark Howe? No.
But he still has potential to be. Yeah. We didn't. I don't have him as a first ballot, but I do see potential there for doing it. But I wouldn't project him there right now.
I thought Mark Howe should have been too.
And based on the pace that Matthews has set over the 3 3/4 years, he's on pace to eclipse Matt Sundin as the all-time leading goal scorer in Maple Leaf history.
Right.
So, but he's got to do this for another 10 years to be able to do it.
All right, Vancouver, and I'm not going to argue with this one because I'm 100% right on this one, even though I know it's really early, but Elias Pettersson.
Too early. Sorry.
It's too early because, again, he has injury problems.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you the injury
thing. I love the kid, but I can't say that, no.
I feel like I haven't seen enough of him yet.
He's the smoothest player since Wayne Gretzky in my mind. Throwing out there.
Yeah, I'm not buying that.
No way.
You lost me a little on that.
This is the hyperbole.
He's a great player. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Hyperbole hockey buzz.
You get a 10 for mental gymnastics, Zach. You do.
Vegas, Marc-Andre Fleury, I already said that. He's my guy on there. I think that's what he did in Pittsburgh and just based on the incredible thing he did by essentially taking an expansion team to the Stanley Cup Finals. That's just, he's like, there's no, in my mind.
Yeah, that helps him a lot.
Washington, 3 guys. Ovechkin.
Yeah.
Obviously. Backstrom.
Yeah.
Not first ballot.
And Carlson.
Neither of them will get first ballot. They'll make it. They won't.
Yeah. Ovechkin will.
Right. Ovechkin will. Not the other two.
Okay. Yeah. And Winnipeg, I really couldn't come up with anybody, but I did think that Scheifele.
Bufflin?
No, I thought Scheifele has a chance at being a Hall of Famer.
I'm going to go nobody.
But I don't think so. Based on this, what you guys agreed with me on 32 of the 40 being first ballot Hall of Famers, which means that we have potentially 32 first ballot Hall of Famers playing in the league right now, which would be more than I think we've ever had.
No, that doesn't. Like, the problem with this, with our doing this, is that we're going to be wrong about half the goalies because that's the average that make it into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and we're going to be screaming about the goalies that don't get in, and Lundqvist might be one of them.
I think the bigger problem is, like you said, Russ, is that a lot of them are going to retire at the same time, and you're not going to put that many in.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, we'd have to go back and look at the eras, but they had those great Red Wing teams where they had 7 off that team,
right?
So there have been some times when we've had a lot of famers in the league.
That's very possible. Someone said Green Hughes they think could be, that's possible.
Yeah, it's like I think that you cannot choose anybody who was drafted past 2014. From 2014 to 20, now that's
5 years at least.
4 or 5 years. It's too early to make that determination.
But I see your point. And normally, if we were doing this as an exercise, then thinking you would do that. But I'm okay. Like I feel like I've seen enough of Matthews. That I can do that. So I don't mind that. But I'm not going to take a first-year goalie and.
Right. Well, granted, I mean, anybody could get hurt, right? I mean,
right.
You got to take that out of the equation. I mean, some of these guys have earned it already if they got hurt.
I was at the Hall of Fame in 2007, right? Mm-hmm. Here was the list, and this is as good a list as you get. Ron Francis, Al McGinnis, Mark Messier, Scott Stevens. Like that's as good a list as you get.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, they
could have chosen more. They could have chosen more, but only 4 got in that year.
I know. And they weren't all first ballot, were they? I don't think so.
Stevens wasn't. That's true.
Right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I thought it was a fun thing to do. Thanks for playing along.
The other 3 were mine, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
I think I thought it was interesting in the fact that I do believe we have a lot of star talent in the.
No, you're right about that.
I think there's a lot more star talent than we've had in like the if you were to go between this decade and like 10 years ago and 10 years ago and 10 years ago, you have to go back I think to the 80s to have like the star talent that we have here.
Your wife should be on the panel here too because she's more right than you.
We have 10 more teams now than we had in the 80s.
Great point. So.
Yeah, and I was going to say, since the last time the Leafs won the Cup, 1967, there are 25 more teams.
Right. Well, there's that too,
Soon to be 26, Mike. Don't count it short.
Anyway, thanks, Kevin, so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Stay safe this weekend. I know it's going to be freezing cold for whatever reason. Like Mike said, it's snowing. But happy Mother's Day.
Our weather's coming to you.
Yep. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. So